Hi, it's Sandy Wyllie. Welcome to my mental health channel, 50 Shades of Black and White, where I wipe away the stigma of mental illness by talking about my own personal experiences of having borderline personality disorder, post-traumatic stress disorder, severe anxiety attacks, ADHD, obsessive compulsive disorder, growing up with a schizophrenic father, a narcissistic mother, in and out of therapy for almost 20 years with unethical psychologists that sexually, physically, and emotionally abused me, and a plethora of other mental health issues. But I only come on as a former patient. I am not a therapist. I do not hold a degree in psychology, so I cannot offer professional advice to you. I only ask in return that you be kind to me, be kind to others in the comments, be kind to yourself. Please show respect for everyone. If you like what you see, give it a thumbs up. If you're new to my channel, welcome. And if you haven't already, please subscribe. It's 100% free. So today I have a question to pose to everyone out there. What is wrong with society today? What is wrong with the adults in this world? What's wrong with our mental health care system? What's wrong with our schools? Well, that's more than one question. That's many, many questions, and we could be discussing this for hours. But I'm only going to give you my opinion. What is wrong with adults today is the adults today were the children of yesterday, raised by the adults of yesterday that really didn't know any better. It really does take a village to raise a child. It really does. What that saying means is it's more than just the parents. It's the teachers. It's the doctors. It's society. So there's a lot more than just parents that raise children. Now, from talking to other people my age, I'm 58 years old. Most, not all, okay, but most adults my age today were severely physically, verbally, and mentally abused as children. This is why we have the problems we have today. This is why we have narcissistic personality disorder. This is why we have borderline personality disorder. This is why we have drug addicts. This is why we have alcoholics. Why? Because of the severe abuse that adults have had as children. And why is that? Because back then, nobody brought this out in the open. Nobody talked about these, these things. Nobody educated people. Everyone kept things hush hush. No one discussed anything. No one wanted to get involved. So as a result, you're seeing people with severe mental illness today hospitalized, people homeless, in poverty, people addicted to, drugs, alcohol, sex, people, severely traumatized, spending years and years in therapy trying to undo all the damage of their past. Back then, when I grew up, it was normal to beat up your child. And you know how many people I have heard said that, it was quite normal for the father to take off his belt and beat a child. Now today, if a parent took off their belt and beat a child, they would arrest the parent and put them in jail for child abuse. But back when I grew up, that was normal. No one even blinked an eye at that, because that was spare the rod, spoil the child. That was what was ingrained in my parents' generation. That was ingrained. So everyone beat their kids. They thought that was parenting. That is not parenting. That's child abuse. Today, your child would be taken away from you, and you wouldn't, and put in a foster home if you did that. If you did what my parents, some of my friends' parents, other people I know, I don't want to mention the name because to protect people's privacy, but so how can we change all that? Okay, we have to start out when people are the most impressionable, and that's when they are children. So we have to start out in the school system. Instead of educating these children today in geometry, trigonometry, chemistry, I mean, why not also include, a psychology course that focuses on how important parenting is, how important it is, to, psychologically be there for your child, how important mental health is, how important your mental health is. Because let's put it this way, if your mental health is messed up, you're not going to be able to be a parent to your child. There's no way, if you're messed up in the head, that you can raise and take care of a child without messing that child up. It's like, the domino effect. Knock one domino down and they all go down. So you have to start with that first domino. Make sure that first domino is strong and doesn't knock down the second, and then the second knocks down the third, and until the whole thing is down. We can start by, educating children in schools. Start by getting involved. Get involved. Coaches get involved in children. Teachers get involved. Doctors get involved. Society get involved. People need to talk about this, talk about what abuse is, what abuse looks like, because a lot of people are confused, because it never was talked about. It was always hush hush, it was always look the other way. No one talked about this, no one talked about incest. No one talked about these things. These things need to be brought into the classroom. It needs to be brought into the classroom and talked about. Incest, physical beating, hitting, even without a belt, belittling, name calling, gaslighting, stonewalling, ghosting, the silent treatment. All of this needs to be brought and talked about in the classroom. We need to educate people about these things, I know everyone will take a psychology class here and there, but it's not enough taking one psychology class to really educate impressionable young people growing up into, have a buddy system, If it doesn't feel right, it isn't right. Always tell an adult. These things. What about the sex education class? Okay. Now, in some schools, not all, there is a sex education class, which I'm all for. I think that's great that they teach that. But they also need to teach beyond sex education. They also have to teach about humanity, how to be a better human. They have to teach that, not just how to make babies, okay? They have to teach people how to treat other people. What is okay and what is not okay. What is abuse? And what to do if you're being abused at home. Who to go to. People need people to go to that they can trust, that will believe them. A lot of people keep this fear because they say, oh, they won't believe me. My teachers won't believe me if I tell them my daddy's doing this, or, my daddy does this to me. My daddy, beats up mom, or they're afraid. All this stuff needs to start out in the school system. It needs to start out in society. It needs to start out with the adults today, educating the adults of tomorrow. So that, this is how we begin to help people, when they're young, so they don't turn into adults that end up narcissistic, end up with borderline personality disorder, end up with post-traumatic stress disorder, end up with, severe crippling panic attacks, end up on drugs, end up alcoholics. We need to start when they are young and impressionable. We need to educate the children. We need to educate the children's parents. We need to educate society as a whole. We need to come together. Remember, it takes a village to raise a child. It's not just the parents. It's the teachers. It's the doctors. It's the coaches. It's everyone else out there, okay? So, this is the point that I want to get across. Because just like me, that I was severely abused by my therapist, there's not enough people out there, educating the therapists on, what is and isn't okay. Sure, they take an oath, do no harm, and of course they studied it and they know that, but there's not enough talked about it. This is the whole point of my channel. I'm trying to open up people's minds. I'm trying to be the voice, even if it's that one voice that comes out and said, this is what happened to me. This is not okay. This is rape. This is incest. This is a doctor I went to for help, I paid money to, who sexually abused me. This needs to come out. It needs to be talked about. These people need to be punished for it. They need to be stripped of their license. They need better education. They need more classes. See, it needs to be brought out. People need to be aware. I think people are more educated today than they ever were in my parents' generation. I think people know better now. And there's a lot, the stigma of going to therapy is, not like it used to be. People would never even mention that they went to a psychologist because everyone would think they're nuts. Oh my God, she's seeing us like she's nuts. But now it's not frowned on like it used to be. So a lot of things are being brought out into the open. They need to be brought out into the open. Children need to feel safe, If they don't feel safe in their home, they can't function out in society. You see what I'm saying? So if they don't feel safe in their home, they need to feel at least safe where I can go to this person and tell them what's going on. I can go to this teacher. I can go to, my librarian. I can go to my doctor. I can talk to someone else and let them in, and they will believe me and they will help me. Back when I was a child, that did not exist. It did not exist. And we were shamed and blamed and told it was our faults that these things happened. We weren't good enough. We, were too loud, or we didn't pick up toys, or we didn't do this, or we didn't do. We're always blamed, That mentality must stop. That must stop, okay? We have to educate people, and it has to begin in our schools. And it has to begin with, with the teachers and our children, along with the sex education. All these other things about mental health, about abuse, must be talked about as well. Because they're even, more important I think, don't you think, that learning geometry, when did I use geometry or, calculus? I know maybe other people have, but in my whole life, most of the things I learned in high school, I don't even use. Okay, I took French for 2 years. Okay, I went to Paris. I never used my French. I don't even remember. Bonjour, je m'appelle Sandra. But when am I going to use that? I took Latin for like 3 years. When am I going to use Latin? Geometry, trigonometry, calculus. I think I could have learned a lot more about human behavior and about, what, abuse is, what it looks like, and who to go to, those kind of things. I think I could have learned a lot more than stuff in high school that I never ever use or never will use in my entire life. How many people use these things? And yet those are, those are the things that, we must learn. We must have geometry, trigonometry, data classes, French, Latin classes or whatever. See, we're never going to use them. There's a lot of other things that the children today, could have used yesterday. I mean, the adults today, when they were children yesterday, there's a lot of other things they could have used. And, so that's where we start. That is the starting point. So I hope I hope that I got this message across, that things need to change. They really need to change. We need to educate children. And we need to let children know that there's people out there on their side, people they can trust, people they can confide in, who will believe in them, who will help them and back them up. That is number one priority. That is a priority, okay? We need that in place. Remember, please, if you hear something, see something, or don't feel right about something in your neighborhood, in your school, anywhere, please speak up. Please do not turn the other cheek. Please do not turn the other cheek. Please speak up and do something about it. Okay.